It's really difficult to do, but I think that if you can just stay the course, for the long haul, God's timing will really show and the plan will really fall into place.
Having Jesus in the forefront of my life, I have zero fear. I have zero fear of where's my next check coming from, where's my next client coming from, what's going to happen next, because God removes the fear from me and says, hey, follow me and I'll set you free.
But nonetheless, it all comes from the Spirit of God. If you're true to who you are, if you're listening to the voice of God, you're following the leadership of God, all of those things will come together.
For me, the key is to really surround yourself with godly men.
I think our only purpose here is to help people see that God is real and that Jesus is alive.
Yeah.
We truly are in a partnership with God. If you really want to learn to have faith in Jesus and to grow in your relationship with Jesus, become an entrepreneur.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Business Interviews. On this podcast, we're all about unlocking the faith in entrepreneurship. Today, I have Rachel and Tim, and they own a health and wellness clinic. And what else do you guys do?
We do whole body wellness. We treat the whole person, every aspect of the individual that's looking to transform their health and well-being. So
Sweet.
Body, mind, spirit, the whole thing.
That sounds amazing. So I'm super excited about this because you guys, as you mentioned, you do work with Gary Brecka.
Well, Gary Brecka is one of the people that when we attend conferences and things like that, we'll collaborate with him. We go to his shows, we go to the events and conferences. And recently we were just at a small event where we were presenting our liver cleanse, and we were able to collaborate with him and some of his coworkers.
I want to talk to you all about
so
that too.
He's in the circle of people that we do business with and that innovate our products.
That is super exciting. I did not expect that at all. When I was coming, I was going to get y'all on. That's awesome, because everybody that I ask, I'm like, hey, have y'all ever heard of Gary Brecka? They're like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and we also are a student of what he teaches because he's the GOAT.
yeah, he's awesome. If you haven't heard of Gary Brecka, you should definitely check him out. And we are in the presence of people that work with him, and I think that's amazing. So I guess I'll go ahead and ask this guy, just kind of get your story. So where did your entrepreneurship journey kind of originate, and how'd you get into business? And I guess tell everybody about your businesses.
So for me, it was absolutely a pain to purpose story. I was in corporate America for just about 20 years and just working and grinding, but all the while knowing that God had built me for so much more and doing the best that I could in that role. But the work-home life balance was off. The values that I had and the legacy that I wanted to leave wasn't going to happen in corporate America. And I just kept doing and grinding and going, and I ended up with adrenal fatigue, autoimmune, real sick, and had to take time out for my health. And in that process of becoming a student of my health and really understanding what protocols are out there and what all God did leave us to heal our bodies, I administered those protocols and became very healthy and felt like God was calling me out of corporate and really into his work field, his mission field of thinking, how many other people feel like you and just don't know what they don't know. And so
Absolutely.
I bet the farm on it. I walked away from an incredible career. I was a very high earner. And I labored with God, and I'm like, are you going to provide? Is this? and honestly, I went into the school of ministry for a year and got this tattoo, because in corporate you couldn't have tattoos, and I thought, daughter of a king, let's slap that on there so I don't forget. And honestly just put my head down and really got into my faith. And
So that's what the tattoo says, daughter of a king?
That's what it says, daughter of a
that's
king. And I
awesome.
put it right there so that I wouldn't go back to corporate, because you couldn't have it out there.
That's amazing.
It was like my branding.
Yeah, I love that.
And I really just started with my church and started giving my time away and having little mixers at my house, teaching people how to cook healthy and what type of water to drink, and how to start that, what the industry calls biohacking, right? Hacking your body and seeing that God did leave us everything to heal, really, is what I believe.
Yeah.
And food is medicine. And so that was the beginning. It was born there. I gave it away. I had no idea it would become a business.
Yeah.
I didn't ask God for a business. He provided that. He provided a lot of work for us and a lot of connections. And that's how our first company, Channel My Wellness, was born. And gosh, that was over 10 years ago.
Wow, that's super interesting. I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you left out a really important part of your story, and at least from my perspective, what I think is interesting is Rachel, she talked about pain to purpose, but when you think about pain to purpose, I've always watched her from before we were married, have different pain points in her life and decide to start a business. And so I think God has given you this, I think it's something that we all carry, but I think for you, you've been so courageous in stepping out and finding a need in your community and serving people. And I think that it's awesome. It's been a great story for, from the concept of, especially a woman's role in helper or provider, and just being really creative in how you've done that. And I think that speaks volumes to what God is doing in and through you, and it's been great for a lot of women too, to what you've been able to do. For me, entrepreneurship, again, it kind of comes back to my wife. I've done a lot of different things in my life. I've had a career in corporate America, and currently I'm a business owner, but I also am a fireman paramedic. And
awesome.
So what's been interesting about that is learning to step out in faith in an area, especially into business, where I've been able to help a lot of people. In fact, I've been able to help more people through my business than when people call me, when I'm at work.
Emergency
911.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I want to let's hold right there for a little bit, because I want to ask, because I know it's a really hard thing for a lot of people. A lot of people that actually that are seeking entrepreneurship, that are looking to quit the 9-to-5 and jump into business and stuff, but they're scared of the risk. So I imagine you had some of those emotions and feelings during that time. Was there anything was there any moment you had where you were just like, all right, this is it. This is what I'm doing?
Yes, I had heard things like, if it was God's will, it's God's bill. Mm-hmm. And, I thought, okay, but I remember showing God my bill and saying, how could I actually, logically,
right?
It would have to take something supernatural, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to have that work out. And I just knew that He would provide. I know God is a great provider, but I also had to prepare on my side. And I do tell people this because I do mentor lots of young entrepreneurs that are thinking about health coaching. That's one of the things I do is I work with young people that want to become health coaches.
Yeah.
And I let them know there's nothing wrong with juggling for a little while. There's nothing wrong with becoming debt-free before you take that move. There's nothing wrong with the preparation and making sure that it's God's timing. Just because He's calling you to something doesn't mean it's overnight. Right. And that you have to discern, is it okay that I do a job and prepare for my self-employment? And so I had to juggle. We've had to juggle many times, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that it's not for you.
Right.
Just because you have to work 2 or 3 jobs until that takes off, until God supplies that increase.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think, to that point, we've taught a lot of people that you have to work in the cracks and the crevices of your day. And, if one business isn't, providing what you need, it doesn't mean that you throw it away. It means that you appropriate that time towards another avenue that may be growing your business. And so we've had to learn that the hard way. We also had to learn and help other people to see that sometimes, their full-time job is what's helping them to create their whatever it is they're trying to create in terms of their own business. So it's okay. You don't going all in doesn't mean going all in with your time. Your time is up as a business owner is where you dedicate the time to where it's needed to grow that business or to grow that profit or whatever it might be. So
it's like there's a reason why we are where we are, and that's that God puts us through what we go through. And so I think that's important to understand too. That's good. Good stuff.
To your point, everyone you meet is a doorway, and it's not as an opportunist. It's like just knowing that if wherever you are, you're able to let people know. And a lot of it comes down to identity. This is one thing that I really help people on, is like when we're on an airplane, for example, we meet lots of cool people. And he could say, I'm a fireman, right? And that's impressive. People love that. Oh my gosh, thank you for your service, all the
Right.
good things. But they're probably not going to need him as a fireman on that flight. So a lot of it is learning to identify yourself as whatever God's called you to create. And for me, I let people know I'm a health and wellness coach. And him too, right? Instead of saying I'm a fireman, I'm a small business owner, and we help people to take control of their health and their life. That's a better introduction. And I know that sometimes we don't start introducing ourselves as that next identity of what we so much want to behold, right?
Right.
But I say do it. Just step into it now.
Yeah.
And let that identity come out. If you're, doing podcasts, it's like, that's how you should identify yourself.
Yeah.
So people know.
It's like for me, it's like we were talking earlier before we started recording. You guys asked me what I do. I was like, well, I work full time for a gas company. I have a construction business. I have a media business, and I do podcasts. So it's like doing several different things, but ultimately like trying to use every single avenue to put myself in alignment with God and just fulfill His destiny for me. That's kind of who I see myself as now. I'm actually glad you mentioned identity, because there's a book that a pastor recommended to me. It's called "And David Perceived He Was King" by Dale Mast, and it's about identity. And it's about the story of David, of course, when he takes out Goliath, and then all of his history and kind of everything that goes around his identity. Is like he knew what God had for him. He knew that God had a plan for him, and so he didn't let all of the fiery arrows of the enemy, put him down, and all of the worldly things around him that were telling him, no, you're just a shepherd boy. You just herd sheep, Right. Like, no, I'm the next king of Israel. Right. Yeah. So I love that you mentioned identity. That's really good. I think that's important, especially if you're going to be getting into entrepreneurship for sure.
Absolutely. Take that on now and be that creator. In business, we can start to manage our business, and I always tell people when they say, well, how do I know if I'm an entrepreneur? Well, are you okay with waking up unemployed every day? And if you're not, then maybe it's not for you, and that's just fine, because we don't need everyone to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
But it is beautiful to trust God with your gifting and your calling, especially when you start aligning your calling with His mission and just what He can do there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, what you said was perfect. It kind of teed up this thought I was having about, when you're getting into business, I think it's important that you realize, and especially, this is, I think, really maybe deeper to me than it may be for your audience or for you, but this give to get model is probably where I think entrepreneurs can go so wrong, right? They want so bad to be successful.
Right.
That
worldly success, secular success.
Right. Yeah. That in the process is all of my values and virtues go out the window, because all I want to do is get what you have, which is your money. Mm-hmm. Right. And yes, money is the currency that we use to exchange our time. You want my time or my service for the money. But that doesn't mean that that you're overselling or giving them something, right, that they may not need. And so I think where our value or where we really have an opportunity in the community to step in as a Christian is more important in how we proceed.
Yes.
Right. And my wife has this great saying, and I think this is it's biblical. It is not out of the Bible, but it's biblical. It is diagnosis. A prescription before diagnosis is malpractice.
Yes.
And really that kind of speaks to the heart of the comment I made, is the give to get model, right? It doesn't work, right? And if I'm nice to you, if I'm just nice for this moment so that I can get your trust, right? I really, in the long term, really shot myself in the foot.
It's a race to the bottom,
right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm giving you something you don't need, right? After that sales process, eventually that person's going to realize it. And
right.
then the trust has been eroded to the point where you don't get to take the opportunity that you know and that we know, which is a current customer is 5 times more valuable than a new customer, because you have this track record of trust. Right?
Yes.
You've invested in them, they've invested in you.
Yes.
And the return is trust.
Yeah.
And that is priceless.
Yeah, that relationship reinforced by trust. Yeah, 100% business. That's definitely key.
Well, and nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to be educated.
Right.
So one of the big things is just value-driven interactions, leaving people with value. Love, serve, grow, is one of the concepts. I follow a guy that I love, Bob Heilig. He's actually wonderful Christian-based business coaching, and he just says, love, serve, grow. And I love that. It's simple. Just love them, serve them, and grow. And the rest will happen.
I interviewed Charles Houck. He owns Southern Junction off of 276.
We love that.
Go there. Yeah, he's awesome. He's a really great guy. Yeah. He's a Christian. He's strong in the faith. And one of the things that he had mentioned was, he was like, he was always like, I believe that mental toughness and grit is like one of the most important things that you can bring into this world as a human. He said, but it wasn't working for him. And then he was like, it brought him to a point to where he like prayed like he never prayed before in his life. And then God just told him, he was like, hey, you're doing everything right. You just have your priorities out of alignment. So, because what he would say, he said, I would roll up my sleeves, I'd go to work, and then I'd pray, and then I'd wait. He said, what I needed to do was pray, wait, then roll my sleeves up and go to work. And he said it was a subtle change, but it was a huge perspective change. And he said that's all he had to do. I just had to shift. That's all he said. And so that kind of relates to what you were talking about. But going back to what you had said before about how God just kind of spoke to you and kind of told you that you needed to jump out of the corporate world and jump into entrepreneurship. And there were some of the things that you said that, you just gotta talk to God. You gotta ask God and just kind of, really see what he wants you to do. And so my question for you is, for people that don't have that understanding, they don't have that knowledge, they don't have that experience, how do you practically do that in your life? Like, is it just getting into the Word? Is it just praying? What are all the things that for you that are how you kind of communicate with God and kind of discern whether, hey, is this what I need to do, God? Is this what you want me to do? Or is this the enemy telling me, or is this something else? Is this a worldly desire? Is this my sinful nature, or is this you talking, God?
Wow, that's a great question. I think one of the things that I tell people is make room for his downloads. So oftentimes we can pray and definitely read the Word of God. I don't want any advice that goes against that, right? So his Word is the ultimate authority on even just as simple as, is your business rooted in biblical money principles, right? Where it's like being obedient in all those things. Every dollar has a home, right? Spend, save, give. And just knowing that you're being faithful in the little. But the downloads for me, I'll give you an example, is when our business was at its peak profitability and just, you have peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. In the midst of it all, and this got a lot of attention from people that I was working with, I took a sabbatical. And I just said...
Okay, explain that for people that are dumb like me. What's a sabbatical?
I took a month off.
Okay.
And I took a month off and I did not work. I shut off my phone. I went on a social media fast, which my business is reliant on social media.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at it like the soil needed rest and like to trust God with what you have brought so much success in our lives. We never anticipated it. We could become very fleshy. I want to trust you and just hear from you and nourish my soul and my spirit. So rest is a part of greatness.
Okay.
And I think that's a huge thing that I would tell people is make room for those quiet times with God and just listen.
Yeah.
Because you can, I mean, I definitely, sorry, my dog
No,
wants
he's
to be
all
a
right.
part of this podcast.
He's great. You got anything to say?
Yeah, she's actually my coworker, so she should be a part of the podcast. She goes in my office all the time.
Well, she is now.
But just having that's one thing. I would say absolutely God's word, time in prayer, praying over your day. Where would you have me? Who would you have me? Just those practical things, my hands, my feet. Lord, if I say something, make sure it's you. But I do believe in rest and laying down your business, because in self-employment, you could just work.
Yeah.
And you don't make time for the Sabbath.
It's so crazy that
Yeah.
you just mentioned that, because I just had some kind of confliction today. Like right before I was going to watch my son at the play, I told you guys, he had a play. Like I was typing up this estimate for a fence in Royce City, and I was like looking at the time, and I only had like 10 minutes to get there. And so I was worrying. I was like, I've got a couple more estimates I could do. I'm right here at the computer. It's only going to take another 10 minutes. I could be a little bit late. That's where I feel like the enemy tries to creep in, and the world tries to creep in and kind of separate us from, our walk in obedience, and our priority list. And so like right there and then, it was like I could have made the decision to sit there and just keep doing estimates and keep working on my business, because it's stuff that needs to be done. It's important, but my family's more important. Because it's God, and then your spouse, and then your kids, and then your health, and then your finances, and and so it was like I feel like that's a good tidbit for kind of the question that I asked you, is like, how do we practically obey God? How do we practically walk in obedience? And not only just for our businesses, but for our life. But in turn, it's like I feel like when we do that, when we do that personally, in our intimate relationship with God, it like directly affects our business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that's one of the probably the pitfalls, in life is fear.
Oh yeah.
Just being afraid of, not being able to, have the provisions that God provides. He says that we can test Him with. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that is necessarily a lack of faith. I think a lot of it is, it's just that self-reliance that the world says is what you need, who you need to be. It kind of gives you the attitude of what a successful person looks like. And it's something that is, it to me, in my view, again, this is the world's view, is you're going to be alone, and it's not going to be a very happy life. I think there's been too many interviews of wealthy people that have said, I have done everything that I ever thought I wanted to do, and I am the most miserable person. Mm-hmm. And so
what's your definition of rich and
right,
success?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think part of it is that scarcity, right? You're sitting there in your own story, writing the fence estimates, which could generate more profit. But, you probably won't remember this, but we do. There used to be something that was called the MasterCard commercial, which was like, they would go through these scenes of life and just say priceless. And the moral of that is that what you got to experience this afternoon lives forever. That estimate that you were going to write 10 years from now, it's not going to matter.
Right.
But your son is going to remember you being there.
Yeah.
Or was it your daughter? Either way.
He's my son. Yeah. No,
they're
you're
gonna
right.
he's going to remember you being there at some point. Or
Yeah.
there might be a picture that captures that.
It's so crazy, because I was thinking that while I was there.
Right.
And I was just making it a priority to make eye contact with him. I was up there and, doing his thing. He was kind of shy. It was funny.
Yeah,
It's
and
the
it's
first
not
thing
to
he
say
did.
there's going to be times that you won't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're saying. We're not saying to
It's just,
live
where's
a
your heart?
kid-centered life.
Where's your heart at?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think here's the thing. This is what I'm learning at 50 years old. I mean, I've failed at this so many times. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. And I'm sure I'll fail more. But I think a lot of it is just remembering that if a spirit of fear comes on me with something I already know, that's not God's voice. Now, now that doesn't mean that I might not fall prey to kind of giving into it.
Right.
Meaning like dwelling on it, feeling anxious about it. Mm-hmm. But it's my responsibility to remember the truth. It's kind of like the stones of remembrance, right? That Joshua laid, right? That God had Joshua lay so that he could remember where God had brought him out of.
Oh yeah.
And so part of it is remembering, like, hey, that voice. We were at our Bible study last night, and I'll just tell you this real quick. A lot of it is just telling that voice to shh.
Yeah.
Because you know that it's not the voice that you're supposed to be listening to that's saying, you're good. Justin,
Right.
go to the play. Go be there for him.
Yeah.
And the other times when it's like, no, it's okay. Finish what you're doing. You know, you made a commitment. You got to finish what you started.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of those times. And you'll know, right?
Yeah.
You'll know.
Like, and then I think that was one of the moments that I did. I was like, all right, I need to wrap this one up and get there, and we can come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they say, show me your checkbook and your calendar, and I'll show you what your values are,
Yeah.
right? What you value. And I do say that there's times where balance is an illusion. You know, one of the things when I coach people that they'll get tripped up on is trying to have perfect balance. And I do believe that that's a trap from the enemy, where he makes us believe that we're going to have this perfect balance between
Yes.
home and work.
Yes.
No, there is times where you will be imbalanced and you will need more supports, and you'll need to just communicate with your family and let them know what you're going through and why you're doing it. And I believe dreaming with your family. Get your kids involved.
Yes.
Make dream boards. Let them know that daddy's creating a business for them, mom's creating a business to leave them a legacy. And they get to dream as they sacrifice time with daddy. Like maybe they've always wanted to go to Disney World or have some memorable camping trip. The thing I tell young entrepreneurs is involve your family in the dreaming and in the creating.
Yes.
Because they are sacrificing a part of you to have that. And that way they feel a part of it.
Yes.
And that's biblical to
Yeah.
have them be co-creators.
Yeah, and
with
I can
you.
resonate
Yeah.
with that with my business as well, because before 2023, I mean, I believed in God, but I was nowhere near as close to God as I am now, and my priority was my business. And I got to, I don't want to say I had to, I got to experience pride and then humiliation from God to bring me back to humility. I got to experience that firsthand. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of light shed on that darkness whenever I experienced that. And I think that's super important.
We too have felt that conviction of, you know, just knowing that we were out of balance. And you know how you can just tell that your values and your decisions, this is a lot of what our coaching involves, is I try to get people's values and their decisions to be right there. That's coaching. You need someone from sometimes the outside to look at it, right? And help you with, and we deal with anything from nutrition to you name it. We deal with the whole person. So as soon as those values and decisions start having a pretty wide gap, that's the turn and repent to the Lord and to others and start getting those behaviors closer in line with your values.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can feel more down as people than when our values and our decisions just start having a huge delta. And you feel it. You just feel that tap, tap from the Lord.
Yeah,
and
that
it's
quiet
okay.
voice that, hey, this ain't right.
It's not condemnation. That's the enemy, right?
Yeah.
But it's just hey, that's the third night that you've missed bedtime, you know? And what I have found is my clients, here I am thinking scarcity, right? Clients need me, you know, when you're in the beginning of entrepreneurism, everybody's back and call immediately. They actually love an entrepreneur that's disciplined, where it's like, I'm sorry, I don't take calls after 8. We'll have to talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
I value this time with my family. I go off the grid,
Yeah.
and I'm 100% dad. They're like, dang, right? He's confident,
Yeah.
and almost not desperate.
Not scared
Yeah.
to
Or
You
that.
teach people how to be in business with you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. if
That's a
they-
good point. Yeah.
That's okay if they may not want to be in business with you because of how you do business.
Right.
Maybe you think the value of that is here, but for them, it's like, no, I'm looking for the beck and call.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
somebody that is so desperate they will allow me to abuse them or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so not all money is good money.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
It's
And then
sometimes-
same thing, vice versa. You know, like some customers you don't want. Like you dodge a bullet sometimes.
It's
You know.
not a match, right?
Yeah.
Not a match.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to my wife's point, I think that you know, when she was talking about balance, and I know what she means, but I think for the audience, I would say use the word harmony, because balance is a definitive term. It is exactly in the middle, and that is impossible for us to create.
Yeah.
We don't have that type of accuracy in our lives, because life is chaotic. And
Yeah.
we were created for chaos. I believe that, but I also believe that God is a God of order, and how you do the harmony is you have to have your eyes on Jesus. I mean, if you are not spending time with the Father, if you're not in His Word, if there is not a real connection that you are, that relationship with the Holy Spirit, like, that is so vibrant, right? You're not going to know
You're
when it's
vulnerable.
time to go.
You're
take the
vulnerable.
game. You don't know when it's time to not take this deal, when He's
Yeah.
saying, no, walk away. Thank you for your time, sir. Maybe this isn't going to be a right fit. I mean,
Yeah.
we tell people that all the time, right? When we sit down with people, one of the first things we say is, I don't know if I'm a fit for you, but we're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right? It goes
Yeah.
back to the prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Not everyone is going to be the right client, and we may not be that right, cup of tea for them.
Yeah.
So I think, as you're considering, getting into your own business, don't allow these pitfalls to stop you. In fact, expect that they're going to come. And like with anything, good,
Prepare for them. Yeah.
prepare and get a mentor. I mean,
Yeah.
like, how valuable is this podcast? Right?
Yeah.
For people to be able to listen to people that have made all the mistakes, and to know that mistakes are good.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you have the opportunity to go, wow, like, I need to learn from that.
Yeah, there's wisdom within
100%.
all of the suffering. And I don't know if you guys know John Lee, but he owns Legends Fit off of I-30.
Well, we used to
That's
go
where
there
we
too.
used to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a new owner.
Okay.
And he also owns Sabine Creek Ranch off of 276.
Okay.
And he put his church out there. He's the founder of Generations Church. I interviewed him not too long ago, and that's kind of one of the key notes that he spoke on. It was, that there's lessons in suffering, and a lot of people they run from suffering. And so, but what they don't realize is that when you run from suffering, you're running from the lesson. And so then you don't learn anything from it, and then you just continue to suffer, and you continue to fail and fail and fail on something or some topic or some area where you could have learned from the first time or the first 2 or 3 times.
I love that. We tell clients, throughout their health journey, you're going to win or you're going to learn. I win or I learn.
And that in
There's no
turn is a
losing.
win,
It's like, and not if you're learning, you're not losing.
Right. Depending on your
You know.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And I would say, as the Lord wants us, He doesn't want us to manage our business, right? Managing involves blaming. So when you start managing your business, I always tell young entrepreneurs that we coach is creation is your highest and best, because you're co-creators with Christ and He made you a creator. So as soon as you stop creating in your business, you're going to be prone to manage. And when you manage, you're going to be prone to blame
That's interesting.
and quit.
Yeah.
So it goes create, manage, blame, quit. And I try to recognize when I start to manage, I need to take a time out and just look at, like, how's my spirit? Am I exhausted?
Yeah.
Do I need family time? Do I need a vacation? Do I just need to really look at my spirit and just, what's happening? And it's great. And that's what's interesting about when you work for someone else, right? Is that you just get to go in, and a lot of employee mindset allows us to say, well, it's my boss. Well,
yeah.
it's my,
Yeah.
when you got to look at yourself.
The employee mindset, I'm glad you brought that
Yeah,
up. That's
you
a
know.
big one.
And I love to be, people say it's an entrepreneur mindset, and I say, no, it's an investor's mindset that I want. I don't even want to be an entrepreneur. I want to invest and have yield with the Lord, like be fruitful and multiply. I never expected, when I stepped away from corporate America, I never expected to help over 4,000 people get healthy.
Wow.
To this day, directly or indirectly. And that was the Lord. He just was looking for my obedience and my faith
Yeah.
in Him. He provided that increase. There's things in my life that
Outstanding.
are just supernatural. I should have never met that person or
Right.
And you even think about, like you mentioned, being at these private events with people like Gary Brecka presenting our offering, and I'm just humbled. Where I'm like, these are incredible people that we're with, the Human Garage and all these guys, and they're just brilliant, and the Lord saw it for us to be in those spaces, and it's just been a wild ride.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What was the name of your business again? It was, go ahead and share it with me again. I'm sorry.
Yes, right now, Powerful Life.
Powerful Life.
Powerful Life, yes, is the name of our business. And we've actually, we started with representing other people's products.
Okay.
For many years as health coaches, it was just being ambassadors and affiliates of the best in the business. And just this last year, we actually formulated our own products.
Oh, wow.
And so that's Powerful Life. Very
Incredible.
exciting. Starting with liver drinks and cleanses. We provide whole house water systems for people. Really, we look at their life force principles. When I look at you, I know you've got oxygen, you've got water, you've got nutrition, movement, spiritual needs. I meet people where they are, and I understand what's not working for them. And so does he. We'll sit with someone and do a health assessment and figure out how far are their values from their decisions and what is hurting them.
We got to invite y'all to dinner one night.
We love that. And we do start with a free health assessment. That's the other thing, is the Lord was like, 30 minutes of your time, just trust me with it.
So with your business, what's some of the biggest hurdles that you guys have had to overcome? Like what could you pinpoint one moment or one season of just super like hard times, like hard hurdles that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I think, man, that's such a great question, because I don't know that we were ready for the success.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I think what I mean by that is your business will only grow to the level that you've grown to. And when you have great success, you have to learn how to invest it well, or
Right.
There's
How to steward,
new problems, right? And problems don't mean they're bad.
I like the term new level, new devil.
Hey,
Right.
that's good.
Yeah.
So you're always thinking about preparing yourself for the next level, if you will, to use your terminology, meaning you're doing the growth that you need to do so your business grow. Meaning, remember what I said, your business will only grow to the level that you are.
Right.
As a leader.
Lid level.
So your lid level, right? So if you're not investing in yourself, right, it's always like, I need to get to this and I get the contract, but I'm not willing to invest here. Right. Whether it's in sleep or in your health, physical health, emotional, spiritual health. Also your skill level in terms of being a leader, what development work, partnerships, people that are in a season ahead of you in their business, right? That those are such powerful things to really invest in early. Yeah. And I've seen them pay off dividends. When it's done in reverse, people notice.
Yeah. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future.
Yeah. And what I mean is, like, a lot of times, and we made this mistake early on, or I'll just speak for myself, I did, where I was trying to grow because I wanted my business to grow. And right away, people figure that out.
Priority,
Right? They figure out, like, wow, like, there's a part of this that is just about you. The only reason you're here is to grow because you want your business to grow.
Yeah.
And when you flip that on its head, if you do it the opposite way, you're going to get so much more out of it. And it will be meaningful. It'll be real. It'll be authentic. It'll be a part of you. It's kind of like being the fruit inspector. You'll see, people will see it when they work with you, when they talk with you, when you come to those pivotal moments where integrity matters and where trust is built.
I love that. Thank you.
We often used to say commission breath. Nobody wants that, right? Where it's like, oh, you're just, you got that commission breath.
Yeah, you can
where
sense
you're just
that.
coming
for sure.
out with the, but being a purist.
Like, hey, I'm trying to pay for my Ferrari.
That's right. Being a purist is about, for me, I often refer to myself as a purist in the industry because I genuinely get excited when someone's life changes. Or I'm like, this person's getting off medication. This person just lost 100 pounds, and they are not a sideline dad anymore.
Love it.
They are on it. Like, they're out there. They're kicking the ball. Like, lives change, right? And I would say this hurdle is very practical, and I think people will resonate. We were providing sustainable ways for people to lose weight and get healthy, and then came the weight loss shot. So our business, a hurdle, our business cut into a third overnight.
Oh, wow.
Overnight revenue, 1/3.
Wow.
Right? Thank goodness that we weren't tempted to live above our means and have our business at that 100% where your lifestyle is matching your income.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
That's
and
tough.
thank the Lord that he gave us the wisdom not to go to that place. And when that happened, that 1/3, and everybody was like, what are you going to do? I'm like, we're going to provide value. And we're going to help those that have taken the shot to know how to eat when they're on it and not lose 2/3 muscle. And I'm not shaken by that. It doesn't bother me. I know that there's provision in this and that those that stick with it will continue to prevail. And I'm not going to let that shake me. I'm going to go and be the best GLP-1 coach I can be. Instead of seeing that as a threat that took my business out, I'm going to cooperate with it and make it an opportunity. That growth mindset kicked in, and I was so thankful that I did the work. Many coaches in my industry jumped. I'm talking 60,000 of them were like, that's it, the shot's here, we can't, what are we going to do? How do we compete with the shot, right? People can just eat whatever they want and lose weight. Well, I said, yeah, but they're still going to want education. They're still going to want to know how to get off the shot, or they're still going to want to know how to protect their muscle and what should I be eating on it and all the things. And
I don't like the idea of
space for them.
taking a shot.
Oh yeah, but these are things that can come in, and you're on top of the hill, and then next thing you know, you feel like you got knocked off the horse.
Yeah.
But it's all in
that's
how
where
you
I
see
was
it.
in 2023.
So that's a super practical example of how we were tested.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because like if I would have had this knowledge like then, there's so many things that I wouldn't have done that would have set me so much further ahead than I am now. So that's super valuable advice right there.
It's all in how we see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I just thought, well, 60,000 health coaches left, more for me. No.
Yeah.
The Lord had us here for a reason. We're not going to just jump because something happens like that. He called me to it, and I knew that he would sustain me in it.
Yeah. So how do you incorporate, your faith, like practically, how do you incorporate your faith and, Jesus and discipleship and everything into your business? And not only that, but how has that affected your business?
Yeah, I think, we've lived in some pretty interesting times these last, 4 years. And I think one of the things that you have to decide in your business, first of all, I want to get to this practical piece because I think this is really, it may help, your audience, and I think people getting started is
absolutely.
If you are intent on helping people, then does it really matter where they stand on one issue or the other? And maybe it does for your business, but for most people, right? And if you talking about discipleship, I think this is key. I mean, you think about where Jesus was. He wasn't just with the people that were in the church. In fact, he was with those people, but he was calling them out, right, for the hypocrisy. But my point is that your social media presence, what you believe, if you're using your business on social media, just be informed that some people are going to choose not to be with you or work with you because of where you stand on things. And so maybe you have your own private page, maybe you don't, I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But I think in terms of addressing the elephant in the room, some people, and when we learned this early on, is to keep those things separate. When they interact with you, they're going to know who you are. They're going to know what you stand for. Yeah. Or they won't, right? It'll just be something that you wrote in your bio that really doesn't mean much. Right. It's just a word, and it's a word for manipulation, if anything, right? It's me saying, it's hypocrisy. I say I'm this, but I'm really not. I'm just using it to get you to trust me. Yeah. People are going to know who you are because they're going to experience your fruit when they work with you, when they talk with you. So I put that caveat in there because we had to address that. It's like, are we being real? Well, yeah, we're not we're not putting something out there that's not true, but we know people, we just want to help people.
Yeah.
And when they experience us, hopefully they're going to experience Jesus.
Yeah.
Because they see Jesus in us.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, to getting to, you know, what I started with in terms of putting your political views or whatever might be out there.
Right.
Just know that you may be closing an opportunity for Jesus to work in their life.
Oh, okay. That's
and
interesting.
We've seen that. We've seen where people, I won't do any specific, because I know a lot of people probably watch this. But let's just say that, you know, you would, you know, maybe based on a single conversation, you'd say, well, they're definitely not a Christian. I could tell you that, right? Because Christians wouldn't say these things, or they wouldn't live their life this way. And I can tell you many, many stories where people have come to Jesus through us working with them. And again, I'm not taking credit. I'm just saying, because all we did is the seed that we planted was just who we are.
Right.
How we did business, how we spoke with him, how we challenged.
It's that Holy Spirit that you've allowed into you.
Absolutely. They experienced Jesus through us.
Yeah.
And I think that gave them the opportunity to go, I always had this perception. I had this dogma of Christians, and you broke that.
Yeah, I love that.
And not Christians, but, you know, Christians meaning like disciples, like people that follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And you broke that for me. Now
Yeah.
I have questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Or even just when I'm working with a client and they're sharing with me the vulnerable parts of health. You know, we get into their sleep. Why can't they sleep? Why
That's a
are
big
they
one, too.
eating? Right? What functional saviors do they have? Food, alcohol, you name it.
Caffeine.
And I get in their life as a health coach. I'm so privileged to understand a day in their life, a week in their life. And oftentimes I will ask, do you mind if I pray with you?
That's awesome.
And I ask, and I've never been told no. Even though they don't share my faith or whatever, I just, do you mind if we close in prayer? I'd like to pray over that one particular, it sounds like a stronghold in their life, right? Where I let them know. And they always say, yes, please. Yes, thank you. And I've let them know without being God squad.
Yeah.
That I hold space for their
Like,
spirit.
hey, you need to be a Christian,
That's
or,
right.
or I'm not going to do business with you.
But they'll come back and they'll say, hey, you're a Christian, right? You prayed with me. Yes.
Absolutely.
I have questions about the Bible. So we've been able to mentor
awesome.
so many young men and women that were not people of faith, and they're reading their Bible and they're asking us questions. And I love that I don't just help Christians. Don't get me wrong. I love helping people of faith.
Right.
But God called me to a mission field that's beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I like. My vision for this podcast is, you know, because me, even myself, you know, I got into business for all the wrong reasons. You know, I got into business for money. That was why I got into business when I first got into business. And so I feel like a lot of young people resonate with that. You know, they see entrepreneurship, they see people, they see the worldly success that comes with it. Obviously, they don't see that it's a blessing from God, and so because they're fixated on, you know, I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to get out of this hole that I'm in. You know, and so I think it's important to, you know, encourage people to seek God, and not by saying like, hey, like if you don't, you're a bad person or whatever. Like, we're all bad people. We're all sinners in need of a savior,
Or
you
even
know.
that money is bad.
Right. Yeah. That's a very good one. Because that's a hugely, I think, widely misinterpreted verse in the Bible that
Poverty
money
gospel.
that money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money that's the root of all evil.
And you said it perfectly, because I think that's just the enemy doing what he does. He twists God's word. And you hear it so often on the news or wherever, and it's almost a way for people to put shame on themselves, and then we paralyze ourselves. Right?
Yeah, we rob ourselves of the freedom and blessing that God wants for us. Yeah,
and that's really it. And I think that's really the message with that is, with money, you know, we are not to create a ceiling for what God's going to do. You know, he has major plans for those things, right?
Yep.
Now, the problem is, you know, our own hearts. And I think it goes back to what you asked earlier. How do you integrate that in your daily life? Successful people do one thing. They consistently do what they said they're going to do.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, part of it is if you identify your success is going to come, and again, defining success is not defined by you. It's already been defined, right?
Right.
By God, right? If
Yes.
you're a Christian,
Go back to identity, yes.
Right. So then the question is like, where else do you want me to go? Who else do you want me to do? Where do you want me to do with this increase? Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're faithful in the little, right, He's going to continue to bless you. Right.
Yep.
I think why he talks about rich people, having a hard time entering the kingdom of heaven is because maybe, just maybe, that the worldly temptations, right, of the now, the pleasure of the now, is the allure to do things differently than when God would have us do.
Yeah.
And it's just a lie, because the reality is that God is looking for us to bless. I don't know how many times you've been able to bless somebody else, right, with something, and that's one of those MasterCard moments again. It's priceless, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to do the things with your children and expose them to things and family vacations that we've been all able to do and give them these amazing experiences.
Yes.
You want to talk about legacy. I think what a legacy is to show people we could have been the people that our grandkids could have said, oh, my grandparents are multimillionaires.
Right.
Right. Or maybe they'll just remember, man, they loved me so well.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter that they know, right, how much, right? That's one legacy that you've taught them to value.
Right. Yeah.
But another one that they may not know how much is in there, which may be a lot, but what they experienced was what you did with it.
What's more valuable?
How you shared it, how you got to see God's beauty, how you found the other joys in life.
Where does that value come from? I was listening to a podcast or a video by, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Myron Golden. He's the black guy that teaches biblical financial principles and stuff. He wrote a book called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man.
No, but I'll have to check it out.
He's a super interesting guy, and he teaches straight from the Bible. Like, he studies the definition of the words and goes all the way back to the Aramaic word and studies the definition of that. Like, he gets deep into it. Very successful, worldly successful as well. But he's very biblical. Like, he's all about the Bible, and he's been at points and times where he's like he says it like this: I was broke as a joke, ready to choke. Now I got more money to know what to do with. And there's one thing that I'll go ahead and touch on too that he talks about, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about before, with the business and the employee mindset, and then getting into entrepreneurship and building something that can set that freedom that you were just talking about too. I like to look at it like he says, it's like a tree. It's like a fruit tree, your business. You plant the seed, and then you water it, and then you feed it, you take care of it, almost like your child, And that's something that, unlike a job or an employment where you're constantly having to trade your time, which is more valuable than the money that you're getting, in order to get the money to live. And so you're basically a slave to the money. And so the way that he explains it, like with the tree, is like, it's something that you plant one time, and then you water it, and then it produces fruit for season after season after season after season. And that's something that entrepreneurship can do for you.
Well, and a couple of our coaches said things to us like, if you have issues with money, I recommend a book called The Soul of Money. Money doesn't have a soul. We assign it one, right?
Yes.
And there's this principle that poor people can't help poor people, right? And so money just makes you more of what you already are. So if you are found in Christ, if you're giving your business over to the Lord and you're successful, money's just going to make you more of what you already are. And that's something that you really, need to take a walk with, because if you have issues with money, whether it's a little or a lot, they just become exponential.
Right.
As you were sharing.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to get our money love right with the Lord, make sure he's over that, make sure we've done a total soul check with him, and that our relationship with the Lord and money is clean before we start making more.
Yeah.
Because when it goes up, it'll just become a bigger issue that'll expose a bigger part of you, and that's something that we've had to learn. So my relationship with money is just a piece of paper. It allows memories and experiences.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
And it is. It's an exchange of time, And so, I do suggest that, though, that people look at, like, one of the greatest books I ever read was, and I've got several copies here, is The Greatest Salesman. It just talks about, again, like it's not about selling. It's about serving people and being
Yes.
excellent. I think our pastor spoke of this a few weeks ago, and he just said, Christian business owners need to be excellent because the Lord calls us to excellence
Yeah.
in everything we do. And you don't even have to say, I'm a Christian. They're just going to know that fence and the way, right? This young man is excellent. Something is so different about him, and they'll want to know. And that's
Yeah.
when we get to witness.
Yeah, like how can I better serve you?
Yes.
And when we get judged, when we die and our time is up here on this earth, we're going to stand in front of a judge, and he's either going to say, "Hey, I don't know you," or he's going to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And that's what it's all about.
That's
And
right. We will give an account for our businesses. So I also talk about conflict. When you do business as a Christian, you'll be tested. You'll have tough customers. You'll have tough partners. How do you handle the conflict too?
Yeah,
Because that's when they're going to see, where's all that, and
Where's
that trust.
the meekness.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just quick to apologize or own it, and just say, "Gosh, I missed the mark."
I've got a good one that while we're right there.
Yeah.
I was building a fence for a lady over in Rockwall, and there was something that I did on the fence. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something with the runner. I kind of reinforced it in a way that it wouldn't have normally, because it was in a weird spot. And she was like, she had said something to me about it, and I kind of snapped at her. I was like, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And so God was talking to me, he was like, and this was before I got real close to God too, but still at that time I was like, I need to go apologize to her. So I went back and I apologized to her, and doing that, I built a better relationship with that client than I would have with any other client. And so just that, even though I messed up, but because I repented, God blessed me even more because of that. And then she gave me 2 more jobs after that. It was crazy.
Yeah, that humility and transparency. I think that's another one. Is just being transparent. And I always tell my clients and coaches that I'm training with, transparency is a gift. When you choose to be vulnerable and share, oftentimes when people are sharing their health struggles with me, I get to share some of mine with them.
Yeah.
And not be prideful and just say, hey, can I share with you? I struggle with that.
Yeah.
That was a stronghold for me. This is what the Lord did in my life. So, we don't have, just because we're entrepreneurs doesn't mean anything. We can be vulnerable and share where we're failing and growing. And I think that builds trust immediately with people, where they're like, hey, you're just like me. You struggle just like me.
Yeah.
And you're relatable.
So what was that biggest struggle? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. What was the biggest struggle that you guys had in your business?
Individually, I mean, I would say having our business grow warp speed.
Yeah. Okay.
And then watching a economic, innovative product come in.
Yes. Okay.
And absolutely cut us. What it felt like was getting chopped at the knees.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Where you're like Guggenheimer effect of just imagine someone invents something that takes your product out.
Right.
And we sat with that, but we were such purists that we were like, it doesn't matter. There are still people that, I even thought, who doesn't want the shot? I'll let them.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to be shaken. The Lord put me on this, and this is what he has for me. Now, I did, and I do recommend this. I pulled my whole team in, and we 10x'd our skills.
Okay.
And there's a time that you sharpen the pencil and you 10x your skills, because you can't 10x your goals without 10xing your skills. And I was like, guys, what do you say? Let's be the best GLP-1 coaches that can help people that have decided on the shot to know exactly how to eat and move their bodies to be long-term successful. Let's provide value in this space and not be shaken.
Yeah.
And our whole team came in and we did that, and we truly are some of the best coaches out there.
Yeah,
as
that's
a
amazing.
result.
I think part of it is, fear. Fear is such a crippling can be a very crippling thing in your life, but in your business. And I think what Rachel did in that moment was so profound because, one thing we've learned so many times is a confused mind does nothing. And I think when you reach that point in your business, you need to get educated. You got to go find somebody that's been in that season before you and ask them what they did.
Yeah.
Right. And a wise counsel, right? And not somebody that is just a successful business person, but somebody that defines success in the way that you do.
Worldly knowledge compared to biblical wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the wisdom of God.
So, applying our own logic to the situation, may not work. Applying emotion to the situation is adding, gasoline to the fire. And I think part of it is you have to open be open and curious in those moments and not looking for places or people to blame. Blame is puts you in a very powerless place in your business and in your life.
Oh yeah. You got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, and part of it is
take
like
accountability.
Hey, it may not have been in something that you could have controlled, but there is a reason for that season. And there's a harvest, a bounty, and there's also those seasons where it's time to let the soil rest.
Love it.
And I mean, we just came through one of those seasons, as my wife was talking about, a challenging moment. But can I just tell you, like, what an amazing gift that we did.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. For one, I think we gain an appreciation for the people that we work with and what we do.
Yeah.
Because our product is the service we provide, and in our specific business, it's helping people change their life and teaching them how to do it. So most people are looking for the quick and easy, pill, right? And hey, I don't.
It's like Western medicine.
I'm not downing that as an option. I get it, and I'm grateful for the ability that people have something that they can, immediately impact their health. I think it's powerful. But
sooner or later, you're going to be on like 12 of those pills, though.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think part of it was just what God created is, in His perfect, plan that we had no idea was my wife lost her father. She lost her grandmother, both grandmothers on both sides, the paternal and maternal side. Which, by the way, I mean, again, I'm not trying to, make this story sounding, but I want you to understand these people were instrumental in her life, raised her. Grandparents that were there with her, like every day after school, like that kind of relationship.
It gives a lot of context.
We saw all the time, but we spent time with even in their old, and so they all passed away very quickly, and during the same downturn. And what an amazing gift to be able to not have that expectation of the business growing and literally doubling its size every single year.
Wow.
And we had this downturn for a specific reason. So we could have looked at it and panicked and got mad.
Yeah.
But in reality, or even blamed ourselves or someone else, but really it was an opportunity that God was just saying, just grieve. Grieve. This is my gift to you.
Walk with me.
Yeah. Like,
settle down.
Like, remember how you define success is not how I'm doing that. Right now, I'm worried for you.
That's big.
And I'm loving you, and I'm giving you the time to lament.
That's huge.
So that you can go back out and serve.
And I think that right there could unlock the faith in entrepreneurship for sure.
It's true. We get to set our own schedules and take time, and that was it was a beautiful time to just tend to my own heart and then fill up my cup. And now I have so much more to offer my clients.
I love that. There's so many stories where I've only interviewed 12, 15, 16. So 16 now. But almost every single one of them has a story of where, they had a downfall and then they had to overcome that. Like even the first interview that I did with a buddy of mine, his name's Garrett Holcomb. He's my age. I'm only 28, by the way. And he's 28 as well. And he started a window replacement company in his mom's house. He had $10,000 to his name. It was his life savings. And he grew to like over $2 million a year within a year. Like his first year, he did over $1 million, I believe. And he ended up having a multi-million-dollar exit out of that company and everything. And one of the things that he told me was there was like this system and process that he like made the decision that they were going to do. He like knew, was confident that it was going to work and like it was going to grow the business and everything. And he said it was the worst decision that he had ever made in his business life and in his business, like throughout the entire time. and it was a complete failure. And there was a time where he went from, being super profitable to basically not profiting at all, barely even making payroll. And, he was like, it was in that time, he moved to prayer. He went to prayer. And then it was like what Charles had told me. He said, hey, pray, then wait, then roll your sleeves up and get back to work. Mm-hmm. It was like, that's what he did. And then now it's like he had a multi-million-dollar exit out of that company. Now he's building another company. It's nationwide. It's already doing like twice that, if not more. I haven't talked to him in a while. But, it's just crazy that there's so many individual stories and completely different scenarios and completely different industries that experience the same thing, that will share that, and how obvious it is that when you turn to God and you really make him your number one priority and you keep your faith in God, your vats will overflow. Like, he will give you more than what you need if you're in obedience with him and if you're in alignment with him. And it's just crazy that almost every person that I sit down with, they share a story similar to that, and it all just points to him. I love that.
Yeah, I believe it's pruning. He's pruning you back, just like a beautiful rose bush. You've got to prune it down, right, for that next blossom to
I
be
love
even
that.
more beautiful. And the pruning, we don't like that. And I often talk to my son. He's 20, and he has an entrepreneurial spirit. And we would consider ourselves serial entrepreneurs because of the different businesses that we've gotten into and over the years. And I let him know that, when you make the decision, you have to burn the ships. There's two things that I see in this, is that his generation has told him it's a get rich overnight thing.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So that's being pushed, right?
There's that instant gratification.
Instant gratification. But they don't show you the day in, day out discipline. Most of success is invisible until it's undeniable.
Yeah.
And no one talks about the invisible. Getting up at 5 a.m., having those 5 a.m. wake ups, working hard, doing the things, saving every penny for your business and not going out. And it's not sexy, right? Those parts.
Right. Yeah.
So
No,
it's like we just
100%.
don't talk enough about that part of the grit and I love Ed Milet. He's like, if you need several, jobs.
He was there at that conference that I went to with Gary.
We love him.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's an amazing business coach. But, he's like, there's nothing wrong with having a day job while you're getting your business going, but these are the things that you're not going to hear.
Yeah.
So when I work with someone, I'm like, once you make the decision, we're going to burn the ships, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to redecide every day.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to still work my business? Or no, you've already started your business.
Oh, that's amazing advice.
You are in it. You burnt those ships. There's no ships to go back to.
Yeah.
Unless you've made them there. And that, to me, is the most agonizing part of success, is thinking that there's a plan B. It's just a game I play with my mind, is I'm like, hey, don't get me wrong. If it's God's, God's will, it's his bill. And I have to work like it all depends on me and pray like it all depends on him. But one thing that I do is I burn the ships.
Yeah.
There is no plan B for me.
See,
until God tells me.
That's incredible because
where he's like, stop.
Yes.
Right?
I love where we're at right now, because I was my next question that I was coming up would be to kind of get close to the conclusion. Was going to be what would be the best advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs and struggling entrepreneurs that are looking to get into business, maybe for the wrong reasons.
That would have been mine.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I love where we're at with
ships.
this. Like, burn the ships. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I think I'm not sure if that.
Let me give some context real
Yeah.
quick, because what's in my heart right now. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm thinking my businesses are not technically worldly successful right now. I mean, they're not paying all the bills. I'm still a W-2 employee, and so what I'm feeling right now is like there are like lots of days where I'm like, I'm thinking about the name of the business. I'm like, should I name? Is the industry that I'm in even worth it? Like, and I look back to when I started my first business, which was a window cleaning company back in 2018. Yeah, no, 2018. So I started my first company in 2018. It was called Gentles Window Cleaning. And I think back on what you were just saying, and I was like, the whole time I'm like, I'm not in the right thing. Like I need to, like this is not working. But I was only in it for like a year or two, you know? And so if I look back now, I'm like, obviously I know if I would have kept going and just kept growing and going on that, it would probably be a lot more successful than it was. And so now it's like I'm looking at my business now because I rebranded and everything, and I've got several other things going on, and it's like I should have kept that going. I should have never gave up on it. I should have kept watering it. And I feel like I would have had that going. I would have had Gentle Contracting going now and the Gentle Media. I feel like I could have had it all. Obviously you can't do everything at once, but at the same time, it's like for going back to what you said, it's like you got to burn the ships. Like you can't keep second guessing yourself. Like you have to make the decision that you're going to start and grow this business, and you don't change your mind. And there were so many times throughout so many, periods of seasons, where I was just like, all right, this ain't working. I need to go do something else. This ain't working. I'm going to go do something else. And I just keep going back and forth to it. Like, no, burn the ships, get it and stick with it, and don't give up on it, and stay consistent with it. I love that. That's great advice. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cover you. I just wanted to give you context of kind of where other young people might be resonating with. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's nothing wrong with trying things, right? Where you go, gosh, I tried the window cleaning business, but it just didn't. That's between you and the Lord as far as like, am I just trying to do something? And we've all been there. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I'm like, I just want to do something to make money.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That was my immaturity. It was just where I was at.
That was Gentle's window cleaning.
That's right. And that's not wrong if it prepared you. But there's going to be a time where that this is where God has me. And I do believe he'll give you that assurance. It doesn't mean it'll be easy. And with this, that, health coaching and just seeing everything that was coming from it that was not monetary, where I'm like, lives are changing when we get involved. Lord, I know the money must be coming because you promised to provide when I'm in my calling. And we just never looked back. That was like, hey, burn the ships. He's called me to health coaching. This is what he wants. He's equipping me for it. It's hard. It's great. You got to think about one of the hardest hurdles in our industry is the business of changing people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like how look at the health of our country. And people will come to us and they'll cry and they'll say they want health and well-being. And then as soon as it gets hard, they quit. So as a coach, one of the hardest things we have is we want to burn the ships for them. Or we're like, no, you've already decided to get healthy. Right? But we can't be their Holy Spirit or their motivation.
Right.
And so that's probably one of the most challenging parts of health coaching is I want them to burn their ships and get healthy and never look back on habits of disease. Yeah. But this is their journey.
Yeah.
And we've got to just hold space for them. So I don't think that it's wrong to fail at things and know when to quit and go, hey, the window thing, I don't know that God called me to that in the first place.
Yeah.
But if he's called you to something and it gets hard, that does not mean that he's not in it.
Right, yeah.
Like if he's put it on your heart when it gets hard, that just means there's some big prize that the enemy's trying to get.
Yeah, he's molding you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It could be that there's kingdom work at stake. We sat in Bible study last night with a gentleman that does real estate, and I thought it was so beautiful that he said, I've got to create a deal for my client, but also make sure that the other party is whole. Because it's not kingdom work if the person on the other side is getting burned.
Yeah.
He's like, every deal I do has to be kingdom, meaning my client is good, but the other person is whole.
Yeah. Serve.
I was very taken back by that, where he's like, it's not kingdom work if someone's getting hurt.
Yeah.
And
that.
Where that dirty money, like we say, you said not all money is good money.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And the enemy will tempt us with that success.
I love that.
He will.
That's great.
For sure.
What were you going to say, Tim? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think, for me, just in closing with, this discussion, which has been great. Thank you for inviting us to this. It's been
Thank you guys for having me in your home. I love your home, by the way. It's extremely beautiful.
Thank you. I think part of this, kind of dovetails into what you were talking about. and that is, you really, you know, it goes back to how you define success. You know, just with the analogy of your window washing business, you know, a lot of it may be that, you know, all of your time may not go to that. It could be, as you pray through it, God's like, that was all you.
Right.
So that's on you, right?
Yeah.
You know what to do with that.
Yeah.
But if it was, then you may have to readdress how do you want me to be spending my time, right? Unless you have people working for you, it may be a one-to-one model, and that is time consuming, right? It gives you less time to do things in your business if that's just you cleaning windows. Right. So that's something for you and God to kind of work out. And trust me when I say He'll make that very clear for you, and for anybody. And just in your example, and I'm sure you understand that already.
Absolutely.
But where I was going with this is with expectations. I think, man, expectations are one of those things that I think we really do shoot our own self in the foot.
Yes.
And we put this expectation on something because of an idea we have or something we saw on TV or in movies, right? That it either identified success for us, right? Like, oh, they make this much in a month, so that is the right thing. That's what God's called them to do. I don't know that that's true. But what I do know is that you will have fruit from your business. And God will multiply, right, that fruit, right? It may not be to the level that you think, but, right, He's always going to provide for you. And so I think part of it is allow God to set those expectations, be praying about those things, not in, you know, with fear, but like with anticipation.
Yeah.
Like,
faith.
You've called me to this.
Yes.
Right. So my expectation is on you,
Yeah.
right, to do what you want to do with this business.
Yeah.
I'm working like it all depends on me, but I'm praying like it all, right? That's real. Like, if you're living through your business that way, your expectations won't be like, oh man, we had a bad month, I guess I'm going to have to go back into, it's fear-based, right? And
Yes.
God is a God of
Yeah.
love, right? He wants to bless us. We are His children by choice. Like, we chose to say, we want this relationship. We choose you.
And there's a vision, you know, and I feel like, you know, I've always had this vision of myself being a successful entrepreneur. Never really, back in the day when I was younger, I never really put two and two that God gives us these visions, and that it's not for the worldly and wicked desires and the sinful desires that we have. It's those glorious visions that we have of us in that success and in that you know, heavenly environment, I guess you could say, or freedom that we dream of. I mean, I believe that God gives us those dreams and those visions, but if it's not within His will, then ultimately, like you said, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, and then we're actually robbing ourselves of those things, of what truly matters, you know, because in those visions, you know, sometimes you'll see nice things. You'll see the nice house. You'll see the nice cars. You'll see the luxury vacations, you know what I'm saying? But within those that are hidden behind those worldly, sinful desires of just, you know, luxury or whatever, is quality time with your family, a way to shed light and a way to help others, like a way to bless others through God, a way to lead them to God, a way to change their life. And so, you know, as I grow closer to God, that's like, I believe that wholeheartedly more than things, that God gives us a vision. And so we can't, and when it goes back to identity, we can't like lie to ourselves and tell us that that's impossible. Like, we can't get there. God doesn't want that for us. Like, I think there's a fine line between like those visions and those dreams and those goals being for just sinful desires, or that's God's plan for us. And it's His plan, you know, for us and our vision, but His is ultimately going to be greater, you know. And so, like, anything that we dream or vision or imagine, it's like you can guarantee that His actual plan is so much more. It's so much better.
Absolutely. One just practical thing too I would recommend is get lean. You know, when you're about to go on a quest, you know, this world tells us like, oh, you know, act the part, you know, get the cars and the houses, and I would say polar opposite of that. I tell our young entrepreneurs that we work with is like, get lean. Get so lean in your finances, because you can weather the storms that come with being feast or famine when you're so lean. It's going to be tempting to not be lean,
right?
And to posture, right? This, all the bling and the things, and that's just the enemy trying to mess with your blessing.
That's a tough one.
It is. And
It
we've
is.
made that mistake, and we've also made the opposite, where we learned and went, man, let's just drive cars that are paid for. And, you know, if God's put this on it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, right? But again, the message from the world is like, no, you can be insta famous and rich overnight, and you just buy all the things. So I just want young people that are listening to know that, like, getting lean, going on an envelope system, doing the not so sexy things that make it feel like, wait a minute, this is not the glamour of entrepreneurism. It will come, and God sees that. He sees that chastened spirit that's like, I will delay my blessing. Lord, help me to be disciplined.
I love that.
It is hard.
No, it's incredible advice.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where I'm at right now, like with the house that we live in and everything. I think it was a terrible financial decision, but we love the house, but it's great. But it's like it's making it more difficult to, obtain that freedom and save the money and so I think that's incredible advice. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that for sure. One thing I'll add to that too is like the slavery part that comes from it. You know, like when we don't live within our means or below them, like, and we live above our means, we're basically, handing our arms, letting the devil put handcuffs on us, and then we're just a slave to finances. And so that's extremely good advice.
Yeah, money is a way to exchange more time. The more money you have the ability to have more of your own personal time.
There's a book, I can't remember who the author is, but it's called Buy Back Your Time. That one of the entrepreneurs that I had interviewed had suggested and recommended that I read, that I haven't yet. I'm still working on the other 4 books of it.
Well, thank you so much. This is really great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess your business, share your business, your services, and how could people get a hold of you if you guys are interested in 10xing your health? I'm sorry, I don't want to steal Grant Cardone's stuff.
No, right? It's going to take us all, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely, Instagram is great. Gain Health with the Richards. Right, Rachel and Tim Richards. Gain Health with the Richards.
Maybe throw that in the video.
I'll send you
and I'll throw that in the
link.
description.
But yes, we do everything from nutrition to getting people clean water for their families. We really look at someone's life force principles and what order does the body go in, and we help them to be the alchemist with the Lord. Right? Obviously, we know that the Lord controls lifespan, but we control health span.
Yeah.
And that's where we really play with some of the greatest in the industry, and really want to help people to just take those baby steps to, especially those that are entrepreneurs. They don't have time to get sick. They don't have time to be tired.
Right.
So we're like, okay, let's get your health in order.
Right.
So your wealth can get in order too, right?
100%.
So it's, that's about it.
Yeah, and I was going to say our other, one of our other businesses, and we talked about it earlier, powerfullife.com. And we'll put the description in the link. I think what's exciting about that, it's a nutraceutical, and it's something that you can take every day for, I think, one of the main organs in your body, which is the liver.
Oh, okay.
The liver controls all of the major functions. It's called the program manager. No, what is it?
CEO.
The CEO,
the CEO of your body.
I can't think of the word, but project manager.
Yeah.
It's project
okay.
manager.
Yeah.
So very important organ to make sure your health is in check with. And so what we do is we offer a nutraceutical that you can take every day, and you can drink it in the morning and night, and it's kind of like the shampoo and the conditioner of your liver. I think one of the things, and Rachel alluded to it earlier about the U.S. health, a lot of the issues that we have are really just about learning how to take better care of ourselves and how to invest in things like your health, so that you're not putting yourself into sick care, which is the medical care industry.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think it's a powerful tool that we're helping people to take back their health and really keep them out of the hospital and keep them out of sick care. So thank you.
Well, I love what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for allowing me in your home and being on the podcast. I think there's a lot of gold in your story and all of the wonderful advice that you shared. And so, hey, everybody, thank you guys for watching another episode of Kingdom Business Interviews. For everybody that's been liking and commenting and sharing and engaging with the content, you guys are awesome. If you haven't already yet, go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and all that jazz. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you have any issues getting a hold of Rachel or Tim, leave a comment with your contact information, and I'll be sure to reach out and get you connected as well. Again, thank you guys for watching another episode of Kingdom Business Interviews, and y'all have a blessed night.
Have a blessed night, everyone.